Thank you all so much for sharing. Now that we know some more about the beautiful dance expressions that you each practice and the mixing therein, what is it like practicing dance styles with deep cultural roots in new environments or spaces where the culture is not prominent in general and in the dance and performance and cultural spaces that you've all inhabited throughout your journeys? Malathi?
Um, that's quite challenging at times, to practice and share an art form where people have no clue about what it's about. But I think there's also beauty in it because you're trying to bring your art and culture to an audience. And sometimes what helps is you have to cultivate an audience by educating, by giving some workshops and some maybe brief lectures about that might help. And sometimes I have also noticed that by simplifying the choreography or the performance and going to the essence of what I want to say in that performance also helps connect them faster rather than having things way too complicated. Sometimes we lose them. And also, I feel pacing and how long the performance is also helps. If they're shorter and if the pace is good, and if I explain a little bit before each performance, what is it that we are doing, then the audience might at least stay with us a little bit. But then it's also beautiful to let spontaneity take over, I feel. It's okay. An audience member need not understand everything that we do. Sometimes there's beauty in just seeing a certain moment in the freeze or in a pose or in the facial expression, or they might make their own little stories. That's also okay to let them form their own opinions. So it does take a little bit of both spontaneity and cultivating an audience through some level of education. And I think it can be done without sacrificing the core elements of our art and culture.
Mm. Hiroko, what do you think?
Well, two different culture completely, maybe most opposite of American culture and Japanese culture. And it was a quite culture shock. And the way dance was treated in America and the way dance was treated in Japan is completely different. For example, nobody will walk on stage with shoes because your silk clothes are on it. You're going to be kneel down, but that's just normal thing. So little things start from there, and every little mannerism, and then also the how stage cast, the stage performer and cast around, and then also stage hands, how they work is completely different. In Japan, one person will run everything, and union won't really say much. But here, there are a lot of regulation that we have to learn. So all those things really affect, every part of it. And I was really excited at the same time. I have to adjust. I am in a different country, different value system. So I was humbled, and at the same time, I appreciate where I'm from. So it was a great learning experience for me. And I can't really tell, how audience perceived it, but it was a part of process, I think. And you cannot avoid that. And I decide to throw every privilege that I have and decide to jump in. So I decided I'll enjoy it. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's great, but I have no regrets.
No regrets. Tomas, what about you?
Well, um, my earliest exposure to performance was through Philippine folk dance. My brother David Tamayo directed a Philippine youth cultural group. He was 8 years my senior, so I was a little punk brother kid in the corner trying to emulate all of their dancing, and I did quite well. But the thing was, is that I always had this itching and this urge to do the Philippine dance um, myself. Okay, so what happens is as I began to perform as a child and then into the teenage years, I realized that I was performing in a misunderstood, sometimes in a genre that was misunderstood, and that was based on, like Hiroko was saying, a different value system from what other dancers were doing, how dance was seen. But me growing up within that as a Filipino American, I knew that it was all dance. There was no difference in that performance, in the value of the Philippine folk dance to my social dancing to the Motown sound growing up. And then as I gained knowledge and directed myself towards modern dance and the ability to make art and to make statements, I found myself again having to defend myself as a modern artist against other, not against, but apart from other dance artists, like Philippine folk dance artists or other traditional forms that necessarily didn't understand the modernism of what I was trying to do. And so again, we're all of us, I'm sure, are in between this continuum of identity and who we are. And again, Hiroko said beautifully, she's still on her quest. I still feel I'm on that quest as well. Not necessarily, well, in that assembling of all of those languages that I spoke about before, I think there's value in everything. I think the most important thing, though, was to make necessary the commonalities of all dance, and that modern dance here growing out of the United States experience 100 years ago was trying to reclaim the spirituality from the Eastern dance forms, specifically like that Malathi is doing from the Bharatanatyam, right? And others that are talking about the value of dance can be one of spirituality and of healing. The last thing I'll say is that I had a great experience in a workshop with Anna Halprin in Circle the Earth dances way back when before I even started to train professionally. And that unknowledge in my life of how dance can heal in global communities was brought to my attention. And because of that, I realized that art and all performance and every expression is a mechanism for the human condition to heal itself.
That's huge. Dulce, can you share some of your experiences?
Yes, when you juggle your identity as a performing artist, a dance maker, and a teacher, I think there needs to be active dance advocacy and dance education when you're doing the work that we all are doing. Dance education, because you're bringing to the table something that is completely different in tradition and something that is completely distinctly culturally informed. And on top of what I do is that I bring to the table the multicultural dimension of my work, because I'm not just doing folk dance, I'm also doing modern dance, contemporary dance expression. So as a teacher, I find myself especially having to point out the differences between, well, this is the modern dance form and this is the traditional dance form. And when I say dance advocacy, it's because what I do as a dance storyteller, it's a new dance genre, and it's outside of the defined forms of dance, such as ballet or hip hop or jazz or modern or even folk, because I'm kind of a mixture of everything. And when I do this different genre creation as an artist and teacher, I see how my students can be diffident and it can be challenging. And as time goes on in the classroom, I find that they find my work interesting. And then there's a sense of understanding. And if they begin to make connections, it begins to become meaningful for them, even though it is work that is from a different culture.
Continuing to build those bridges and spotlight those new experiences for folks, which is really important.